My experience has been a tough one where I've had to work like twice as hard and push myself to my limits along with my team members to ensure that we secure consecutive wins. I'm very, very confident. I believe in myself, I believe in my team members, I believe in my coaches, and I believe in my God that we will surely win.
Moving from preliminaries to finals, it hasn't been easy. It has been tough, challenging, engaging, and also interesting. We've got to meet with many states, we've got a lot of experiences, and we are hoping on God to even win the finals.
So far we have been working really hard, very, very hard, and we hope that by the grace of God we'll be able to deliver. Anyways, I know that we will deliver, but the preparation so far has been going great, and just expect the best from us tomorrow.
I'm very confident in the sense that I and my team, we have been working towards effective success, and by the grace of God, of course, we are going to win the final. You should expect intercontinental anti-ballistic cross missiles from us to the proposition side, and of course 100% success.
Like I always say, Team Anambra will always give you fire for fire. We know that Team Benue is a strong team, but guess what? Team Anambra is stronger. So expect fire for fire, the best from us, the best and the classiest.
The preparation of my team, Team Benue, has been adequate, and I must sincerely confess that I'm quite satisfied with our preparation, and we are ready to engage, not just to engage, but to defeat our opponents in tomorrow's encounter at the finals and emerge the first position.
Personally, the journey of this debate tournament has been interesting. From the preliminaries, actually we made a lot of sacrifices because we wanted to win this tournament. I mean, we sacrificed our classes, we are currently sacrificing our exams, we are far away from school, we are sacrificing basically these STEM studies to win this tournament. That's why we are ensuring you that Anambra will deliver the best we can. We will never let our suffering go in vain.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ipo Enugu. Now we are about to begin the intellectual battle debate for the grand finale. I'll remind us the motion one more time. This House supports the passage of the Special Seats Bill to guarantee additional legislative seats for women in Nigeria. With that, I call our first speaker from opposition to come and give an opening statement. Thank you.
Put it on your neck, don't forget to drop it back. I'll try it.
Ladies and gentlemen, panel, on proposition today, we fight against an age-old custom that permanently excludes women by actively denying them the right to express their own voices in today's male-dominated world. Now, what do we do on our side? We fix the structural issues by protecting the voices of the average Nigerian woman. We are proud to propose Catherine, lead speaker of proposition. I'll begin by explaining why the creation of these reserved seats is justified, and from there I'll discuss the tales of tokenism. My second speaker will extend on my arguments, and my third speaker will rebut. Now, what is the Special Seats Bill? The Special Seats Bill creates additional separate seats that can be contested for and filled exclusively by women on both the national and state House of Assembly levels. Now, this bill plans to create additional seats to address the low level of women in legislature. Because despite being up to 50% of the population in Nigeria, women hold less than 5 seats in the National Assembly. In Nigeria's demographic genesis, in 1999, female representation was at 3.6%, and now our representation is at 4.4%. Only a 0.8% increase in over 25 years. Now, what does this bill propose? It proposes the addition of 37 seats for women on the Senate level and the addition of 37 seats for women on the House of Representatives level. Not to mention the State House of Assembly, where an additional 3 House of Assembly seats for each state per woman. Now, note, there are 5 clarifications. Firstly, additional seats do not stop women from contesting for the original 469 seats. And every political party will actually elect 2 female candidates to hold contests for these seats. Secondly, these seats will be contested. It's not appointments, whereby the proposition's arguments about meritocracy falls flat in this debate. So these women are actively contesting. And when they win, it's evidence of merit. Thirdly, the existing seats will remain. We are not removing any seats, we're just adding more, whereby opposition's argument about female dominance will fall flat in this debate. Fourth, women are actually subject to recall. So if they mess up, if they fail in their duty, they can be removed from office. So these women can actually be held accountable for their mistakes. And finally, it's a temporal process that lasts for 16 years. So it's not permanent special treatment for women. It's a temporary phase to allow for more inclusion of women. Now, on to my first substantive point. Why is the creation of these seats justified? For 60 years, women have been subjected to the same state-backed, systematical exclusion. This is a dark story that opposition would never dare to tell. Do you know Nigeria actually inherited a political structure built for male elites, whereby military regimes exhibited male dominance? So military men took over governance, security, and contract networks. Now here's the twist. After Nigeria developed democracy, the same network of military men actually transitioned into political parties. Examples are former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who was a military head of state from 1976 to 1979. He became a key figure of the People's Democratic Party, also known as PDP, and there are more like him, like our former President Muhammad Buhari, who is also of APC, and Chukwemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu of APGA. So from the go, women were never involved in the early political decision-making of Nigeria. They were never able to build their own political routes, their own pipelines, their own legitimacies. So from the beginning, their voices were shut out. Now, men are the gatekeepers for Nigerian politics. Primary elections draw a high barrier for women, whereby the nomination cost is at a whopping 20 million naira to 15 million naira. So the few women who are actually able to pay these high costs have to take part in candidate selection meetings that often happen in the night in places unsafe and unfavorable for women. And upon their entry, they realize the party chairman, the deputy chairman, and the ward coordinates are all male. So from the moment they step their feet through these doors, they automatically have no voice. And this is one of many problems that women face. Women are facing violation, intimidation, and threats that remove them before they can even contest. In fact, the United Nations reported that women are more subject to 4 times targeted political violence than men, unashamed publicly just for contesting, being branded as bad wives and bad mothers. Not to mention economic inequality that makes it impossible for women to compete, cultural and religious conditioning that makes invisible barriers, and media bias that silences women's voices. All of this is happening now and will continue happening without intervention, which is why we mentioned the current statistics. Only 4% of women are in State House of Assembly. There are 0 female governors. Less than 10% of women are in party leadership positions. Many states have no female legislator at all, and women-led bills rarely pass. In fact, a girl born today will grow old, have children, become a grandmother, and still die in the same Nigeria where women never governed her. Panel, this problem cannot fix itself. Opposition may cry, give it time, give it education, fix culture. They may sit, which is why these are all lies, which is why we govern by the 4 truths. Firstly, opposition may say solve cultural differences first, but we say culture cannot evolve without women in power. This is the same strategy that Rwanda used, Ethiopia used, South Africa used, Senegal used, and they all changed. Secondly, opposition may say fixed income inequality, but economy cannot magically become equal, and women can't earn more if policies, budgets, and programs are written by men who won't even prioritize them at the end of the day. Thirdly, opposition may say solve cultural issues first, solve income inequality first, while parties do not reform voluntarily. Men that have been benefiting from this exclusion for years will not hand over this power for free. And finally, opposition may say solve gender discrimination, correct the root causes, while electoral competence does not correct the gap. Elections represent society, and if society continues to discriminate, elections will redistribute this same discrimination forever. Our policy starts now, placing women at focal points of power and abandoning the structurally strategic delay that opposition may contest. Second point, the tail of tokenism. Opposition may see these special seats exhibit tokenism, whereby women are symbolic and not actually impactful. But what they fail to realize is that in Nigeria, power is in numbers. Legislative power is determined by the number of vote counts. Bills passed by majority. Committee leadership is chosen by caucus strength. Increasing number of women in parliament from a meager 4% to a potential 20 to 30% will make sure they change from a negligible minority to a political power. And the reality of tokenism is what women face in parliament today, where we have 4 women out of 109 senators and elite scholars representation, where 15 states have 0 women representatives, yet opposition pleads indifference. This is tokenism in and of itself, and this is what we are fighting in these debates. Panel, because proposition believes that there's progress in delay, and because proposition should continue to say indifference to the plight of the average Nigerian woman, we are proud to say that they've woefully lost this debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If that was something, let's have next speaker from opposition. First person opposition.
Ladies and gentlemen, let no one twist this debate. Our opposition is not against women's political participation, but to lazy shortcuts of manufacturing extra seats instead of fixing the system. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable judges, before we proceed, let's get one thing clear. The proposition here is asking a house to celebrate laziness disguised as progress. They want us to believe that the solution to Nigeria's political problems is to add extra seats for women. A token gesture that insults the very women they claim to help. Pardon my audience, this is not empowerment, this is political charity. They are saying to Nigerian women, you are incapable of competing in the real system, so here is a consolation prize. That is not reform, that is patronage, that is disrespectful, and we side opposition are against that. But when I venture to this thought-provoking argument, good day, Mr. Chairman, if I shall be of judges, accurate timekeeper, the moderator, my co-debaters, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I am Fanny Maduka Sonia, the lead speaker from side opposition, here to very many oppose the motion. This House supported the passage of the special seat bill to guarantee additional legislative seats to women in Nigeria. As the lead speaker, I established the protocol for my team. I also defined the key terms and laid the foundation for today's argument in this match. My first supporting speaker in the same spirit will portray our stand against this motion. One my second supporting speaker will report, refute, debunk, and contradict all baseless arguments and propositions we bring to this House. Finally, my audience, before I proceed my argument, let me divide the key terms. The key terms in this motion are special seat bills and additional legislative seats. A special seat bill is referring to a legislative proposal seeking to create additional parliamentary seats exclusively for women at the federal and state level in Nigeria. While additional legislative seats refers to new seats added on top of the current 469 nominational assembly seats we have in Nigeria. Finally, my audience, you might have clearly defined. Let me to give a historical background of this motion. Since independence, Nigerian women have faced persistent political underrepresentation, not because these seats were unavailable, but because party structures, high nomination costs, and even cultural barriers made real participation very difficult. From 1999 onward, government after government have introduced soft measures like the 35% affirmative action target and also women leaders positions to eradicate this problem in Nigeria. But depending on my audience, women's representation never rose above 7%. This attempt failed because they did not reform the underlying systems that exclude women. Panel, this special seat bill simply repeats this historical pattern of shortcuts instead of structural change, offering temporary seats without fixing party primaries, financing inequalities, or even political safety issues. Panel and my audience, even though the proposition did not fully outline their case, the logic of this motion suggests certain arguments that they must rely on. So I will address those, and more importantly, I will show you why the core of their portion still fails. Panel and my audience, the lead speaker of side proposition came here to tell us that women are underrepresented, therefore special seats are necessary. But let me dismantle this claim. Underrepresentation is a symptom, not a cause. Social seats do nothing to touch the structural roots in Nigerian politics. No financial barriers are removed. No violent intimidation is stopped. No party corruption is reformed. All it does is to create a side door and whisper, use this one. The main one is too difficult for you. Panel and my audience, is this what we call inclusion? Isn't this segregation? And make no mistake, any politician who supports this bill is admitting that they cannot compete fairly and will cheat the system with gender quotas. They also said that more women in parliament, no thank you, more women in parliament means better policy. But spare me all those baseless arguments side proposition. Policy is not measured by anatomy. Policy is measured by competence, participation, and even accountability. You cannot legislate quality by counting chromosomes. This bill produced a parliament where women are added for optics, not for mandates. It is a gimmick panel. It is an insult to every woman out there who fought, who struggled, and who campaigned in the real political arena. And worse, it risks making women look like second-class legislators, beholden to quotas rather than voters. They also said that countries like Rwanda and Tanzania did it. But let me cancel that comparison. Nigeria is not Rwanda. Nigeria is not Canada. Nigeria is not even Senegal. Their political structures, histories, and resources are entirely different from ours. These countries paid quotas with deep structural reforms, that is, party democratization, electoral accountability, and also social campaigns. Nigeria, on the other hand, is offering a quota without hard work, without fixing a single root problem from the scratch. Part of my audience, copying a model without the conditions that will make it success is not a smart policy. It is what my teammates and I call reckless amateurism. Our case is simple, undeniable, and brutal. First, special seats undermine meritocracy. Democracy is not about charity. It is about competitiveness and even accountability. Second, the bill inflates government costs while achieving nothing real. Third, this bill avoids real solutions, that is, campaign finance reform, self-political participation, party primaries, cultural change, among others. Instead of fighting for women to win real power, it offers them seats in a system that continues to fail them. Ladies and gentlemen, the proposition here wants to build an elevator to a weaker floor. But we side opposition started to fix the stairs to ensure that women climb to power through legally, legitimately, and even with competence. Tokenism is not the progress. Quotas are not reform. This bill here is lazy, insulting, and even ineffective. That is why this house must resoundingly reject it. Panel and my audience, I will then be buttressing my argument on two levels of analysis. Firstly, we will show you the difference between structural reform and structural support. Side proposition came here to tell us about structural support of improving women's representation. Honorable judges and my audience, let's ask ourselves a deep question. Do we solve a problem by treating the symptoms or by curing this disease? The special seat bill offers extra seats to women, no doubt. But tell me, does adding seats fix the broken electoral system that keeps women out? Does it tackle intimidation at party primaries? Does it reduce astronomical nomination fees that only the wealthy or connected can afford? Does it dismantle godfatherism, political violence, or discriminatory party structures? The answer is capital no. This bill creates a shortcut, a temporary patch on a deeply flawed foundation. It tells women, we see your struggle, take a seat without competing. Don't bother about changing the system. But honorable judges and my audience, we all know that these shortcuts do not create lasting change. These shortcuts do not have permanent impact. They do not build resilience. They do not teach these women to navigate, to survive, and to even transform in a real political arena. We should not be building phantom ladders. We should not hand out seats. Pardon in my audience, we should reform party financing. We should reform primaries, and we should even secure safe participation. Ask yourselves, if we hand out these temporary privileges, what happens when this law expires? Will the next generation of women be ready, or will they be trapped waiting for the next shortcut? Panel and my audience, this bill is a shortcut. It marks the problem. It delays the progress. That is why we side opposition are here to tell you that Nigerian women deserve reform, not reservation of seats. They deserve a system that lifts them up, not a seat that is always there for them to come and sit. Panel and my audience, honorable judges, this one will lead me to my second argument, which is differentiating tokenism from true empowerment. It's empowerment measured by presence or by power. This special speed bill promises more women in parliament. Yes, but tell me, if a woman is handed a seat, is she a legislator or a political decoration? If her voice is guaranteed by law, rather than earned through competence and challenge, is she truly empowered, or is she merely a symbol to make the system feel fair? Panel of judges in my audience, my team and I have been able to speak on this point without much challenge from our opponents. This is to say that they are giving it to our key submission. Proud to oppose. Thank you.
How many minutes did I say?
Now, welcome our next speaker from
Panel. Team opposition's entire ideology collapses from the starting point. They stand here and scream, don't give women special seats. It stigmatizes them, makes them look weak. But they are fine with the current system, where in the parliament, only 4% are represented as women. They scream, special seats create powerless token. Yet, for the past 25 years, they have watched as their powerful system gave us everything except the true progress that we need. They shout here screaming, Godfathers will capture those seats, but their alternatives send these women back to the Godfather-controlled parliament, where women lose 96% of the time. Panel. Team opposition's point can be summarized as one entire statement. We ignore the root causes, but panel, guess what? We on team opposition stand here to tell you that you need insider efforts to be able to change the level of structural inequalities that is in our country, Nigeria, today. I am Jennifer, second speaker proposition. But before I move on, I would like to make some concessions. Panel, we do consider the fact that male legislators can actually create laws that actually seem to protect women. But panel, why do we not support this? Because first off, these reforms are usually either slow or not enforced. Because we said these male legislators do not have enough incentive to carry out these reforms because it doesn't give them direct impact. And even if they do carry it out, this is simply because of the fact that they gain external pressure from either international organizations or feminist agitations. Panel, why is this bad? We see that these male legislators end up using women as a means to an end, and at the end of everything, don't even complete the means to the end. Panel, how is that different on our side? We see that when we put women into seats, these women can feel the pain of other women. Therefore, they are incentivized to actively make reforms that change the structural inequalities that team opposition claim that we do not handle root causes. No, thank you. My first substantive point. How the Nigerian democracy fosters inequality and how we better solve this problem on side proposition. Panel. Team opposition will likely cry out that special state is not democratic because of the fact that we support women, we give them an easier access, and then democracy supports the entirety of the nation, not a particular sect. But panel, notice that in Nigerian status quo today, Nigeria is a highly undemocratic system, an undemocratic nation. Because can you tell me why a nation with over 49% of population as women has only 4% represented in power? This doesn't make any sense. But how do we solve this problem on side proposition? We give women a level playing ground and make them be able to contest on par with their fellow male counterparts. Team opposition will cry out, special states are democratically not legitimate because they have no constituency. But at the end of everything, this is not true. Simply because that these special seats that we call out for are actually contested for, and then these women get elected. They get elected. We are not giving them for free. They get elected. Panel, notice how those who voted for them can actually recall them if they decide to not do what is expected of them or they are voted out of the system at the end of their tenure. Panel, notice how the occurrence of non-constituency is not an entirely new thing in Nigeria. For example, we have the FCT. Panel, team opposition needs to answer this question. How do they think that women can solve these structural inequality problems? I'm talking about enactment of gender-based violence laws when they are not even in the room where these decisions are being made. Panel, who exactly will pass these reforms for them? Is it the 96% of male legislators who have for the past 25 years failed to do this? Panel, we on side opposition solve this problem by bringing these women into power, and that is simply by increasing their number. Because in Nigeria, power in the legislature lies in majority. Can I have your POI?
If women are fully capable leaders, why do they need seats to be guaranteed for them? And if they aren't, why should we guarantee them?
Panel, in Nigeria today, like I said earlier, Nigeria is at a level where the structural inequalities is above any other thing. Notice how when women, right, it's not that women don't compete for the seats, they do compete, but they are scrapped out at the primary election level. Tell me, panel, if, for example, in a political party, there is a woman, there is a man, there is a man, there is a man, there is a woman, and then they are all contesting to represent APC at the governorship level. We all know the truth. When this woman walks in, the first thing, oh, she's a woman, she's no experience, like, what can she do? At the end of the day, these seats will eventually be given to men. Panel, my second substantive point, how special seats break godfatherism. Team opposition might argue the slippery slope of how godfatherism spreads even more in our world. But panel, let me show you how that is false on 3 basic levels. First of all, the nature of special seats creates an additional level of scrutiny on women, because we see that feminist organizations and other major stakeholders now see and say, okay, women are in power, let's see what they can do. We now see that these women take active measures to actually do what is right and create social reforms. Secondly, notice how our model in of itself is short-termist in nature. So when these women see that, oh, they don't have enough time to be here, this gives them an incentive to prove themselves to the community and to society. Most especially, even if at the end of everything, they end up falling victim to corruption and godfatherism. Notice how they can be recalled by the electorate that puts them into power, or at the end of everything, they can be voted out of seats. Panel, even if we consider the fact that godfatherism exists in our world, panel, since time immemorial, godfatherism has supported male gatekeeping. But what do we use it to do? We use it to support and push women by making these godfathers put women into seats. And at the end of the day, what team opposition doesn't want us to know is the fact that once these men enter into parliament, they become independent of those godfathers. Team opposition wants to scare us with the fact that team opposition wants to scare us with the fact that godfatherism will create and take over the seat. But panel, in reality, lawmakers are actually independent. Panel, we see at the end of everything, these women are not judged by godfatherism, but on their work, performance, and institutional influence. Panel, my third substantive point, how the special seats build competence and end inexperienced stigma. Team opposition would like to say that women are inexperienced and creation of special seats equals to bringing in amateurs. Panel, while this may sound convincing on the outer level, this doesn't address the problem from the root cause, because at the end of everything, we see that opposition paints inexperience as a natural flaw that is inherent in women. But this is actually because of the fact that they have a hostile political system, which at the end of everything, our model aims to solve. Panel, the principle of reparation. Let us be honest, women just didn't wake up in an underrepresented parliament. Marginalization is something that dates as far back as decades ago. When we talk about financial barriers, gender-based intimidation, violent primaries, we see that these structural inequalities have existed for time immemorial. Panel, when we give women these special seats, we basically give them an easier access to mitigate these structural issues, these core issues that team opposition claim that we do not address from the root causes, because now they have people to speak for them in the parliament. We basically achieve 2 things: reparation for all the years of harm that this Nigerian society has caused upon women, and then we are able to fix the current structural issues. And at the end, we speak up for these women and we reduce the harm that women face in the society, something that team opposition never achieves on their word. Panel, Nigeria has waited for 63 years for women to actually earn their space. Panel, notice how in our country, every girl is being told politics is not her place. But what this model basically does is, here,
Step forward. Your country needs you. That is the side of progress. That is the side of success. And that is the side of proposition. That is why we need to let this motion stand. Thank you.
Thank you for that compelling argument. Please, debaters, just remind mindful of how you speak into the microphone. Just have it distance between your mouth and the mic. With that, I welcome my next speaker for opportunity.
Panel, before I speak today, let me make one thing very clear. We, the opposition, do not oppose women. We oppose a bill that could bring expansion of a legislature that is already bloated and constitutionally constricted. Before we rush to applaud a bill that provides special seats for women, may I ask, when the Nigerian women, brilliant, beautiful, fearless, and resilient Nigerian women, become so weak that they must beg for political charity than demand political justice? When did empowerment become pity? When did representation become reservation? And since when did democracy start growing by splitting our parliament into two? Those who beg for seats and those who are handed seats. Ladies and gentlemen, this bill claims to uplift women, but let me let you know that women do not rise by lowering the ladder. Who decided that the daughters of Fumilayo Kuti, Dora Akunyili, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala need a special lifeline to stand on grounds they already have the authority and strength to stand on? I ask, if the bridge to political power is broken, do we fix it or do we create a private shortcut for only a group of people? Shortcuts do not solve a problem. They only hide the problem. Today, they say we should reserve seats for women. Tomorrow, which group of people will they go knocking at the government house door to reserve seats for? But before I proceed my arguments, permit me to give honor to whom honor is due. That's why I say, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, panel of judges, accurate timekeeper, my co-debaters, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Standing before you is Faith Dixon, the chief person speaker of debate in Benue. Yet to vehemently oppose the motion, this House supports the passage of the special seat bill to guarantee additional legislative seats to women in Nigeria. The chief person speaker of the proposing team kept making noise and saying that there are structural barriers. But let me ask you, if there are structural barriers, it's not advisable to fix them than to teleport women into political power. Think about that. This leads me to my first point, the Constitution. Before we even talk about empowerment or representation, let us talk about the Constitution, the very backbone of our democracy today. The Special Seats Bill claims to empower women, but constitutionally, it distorts the rules of representation laid out in our supreme law. Section 48 of our Constitution clearly states the Senate shall consist of 3 senators from each state and 1 from the Federal Capital Territory. Section 49 states the House of Representatives shall consist of 360 members representing constituencies of nearly equal population as far as possible. Judges, these numbers are fixed. They are not suggestions. They are constitutional pillars. And let me ask the proposition. When did we decide that some people need special lanes while others need to fight for every seat? Is that empowerment or constitutional overreach? And let's not forget the implication. It risks creating a 2-tier legislature, one group winning through election, another entering via allocation. Honorable judges, we do not oppose women. We oppose a bill that bypasses the Constitution, fair empowerment, undermines equality, and masquerades as empowerment. Because empowerment is not guaranteed by special seats. Empowerment is guaranteed by fair competition, equal opportunity, and a level playing field, all within the bounds of our Constitution. Are we truly empowering women, or are we creating a constitutional shortcut that erodes democracy, fairness, and the law itself? That is why we must reject this bill, because the extra seats bill contradicts the Constitution. Second, the cost burden. Let us face the truth, Nigeria cannot escape. A government does not expand itself for free. Every extra seat paid for, every extra seat added is paid for, not by politicians, but by the Nigerian people. And in case you don't understand what I mean the taxpayers. Today, the National Assembly holds 469... No, thank you. 469 lawmakers, and even with that number, our budget is growing. With that 469 lawmakers, Nigeria spent about 17 billion naira each year on running costs, nothing luxurious, just existing. A total assembly budget of 228.1 billion naira was recorded in 2023. A combined state and federal legislative expenditure of 724 billion naira in 2024 drained from public coffers. Now, judges, this is the only question that really matters. If 469 lawmakers made us spend over 200 billion naira, What do you think will happen when about 182 seats are added? Our budgets will collapse. Prices will be skyrocketed. And this is the truth Nigeria cannot escape. In our hospitals today, there are understaffed members. Schools are collapsing. Inflation is rising and unemployment is choking dreams. Is adding more politicians into the picture truly the hill Nigeria wants to die on? Of course not. The proposition will tell you that this bill empowers women. But let me ask them, how does empowerment come from expanding a structure that is already too heavy for the economy to carry? And judges, this is the bitter truth they cannot ignore. Every additional seat costs money. Every additional seat expands bureaucracy. Every additional seat drains resources that should be used in building women and not paying politicians. We, the opposition, propose a different path. One where empowerment lifts women, not the cost of governance. One where opportunities expand and not the parliament. Third, perverse incentives. This bill promises seats for women, good and fine, but let me ask, which women? When you create a protected corner in politics, you also create a magnet for manipulation. Suddenly, the game changes not for the women, but for the kingmakers behind them. Do you really think that this bill will benefit the ordinary Nigerian woman or the daughters, wives, cousins, and loyalists of political godfathers? Special seats become special prizes, and in Nigeria, prizes do not go to those that are deserving it. Prizes go to only those that are connected. Why this bill speaks the language of empowerment, the system whispers a darker truth. These seats won't uplift women. They will recycle the elites. Not merit, not competence, just connections disguised as progress. We do not deny that women deserve representation. In fact, we the opposition, we even demand it, but we demand representation that is earned, not inserted. No, thank you. So instead of expanding a legislature already bloated and constitutionally constrained, the opposition offers real sustainable alternative solutions: transparent party primaries, gender inclusion, inclusive financing, safe elections for women, leadership pipelines, enforcement of existing laws, and incentive-driven reforms. These are solutions that change the structures, not shortcuts that change nothing. Look at countries like Germany, the founder of the longest serving female chancellor, Angela Merkel. Germany never created special seats for women. New Zealand never created special seats for women. Women do not need special seats to increase their participation in politics. Nigerian women have rather stopped themselves from going out to fight for positions. When it is time for elections, you see a lot of women on the queue to vote. When it is time to contest for elections, you see only very few women on the queue. When women have stopped themselves from going out to become leaders, how is it the fault? How would creating special seats help them? What Nigerian women need is not special seats, but education and motivation, so that they will come up more and contest. I leave you with this question. How do you promote democracy? By creating lawmakers Nigeria never elected. We, the opposition, stand on facts and not fallacy. We stand on facts and realities, and with this, I say, let this motion fall. Thank you.
Thank you for that impressive argument. Now we welcome our next speaker from opposition.
Mr. Speaker, let us be very clear from the start. The opposition today is defending a system that has already failed. A system where 96% of our women are shut out of parliament. A system that silences half the nation's talents, half its voice, and half its vision. They may call it merit or equality, but it is exclusion dressed up as principle. Women have been politically excluded for decades, 60 years and running, and proposition believes it is time for a change. I am Vivian, rebuttal speaker, proposition. Panel, the side that wins this debate is the side that better solves the problem that bedevils women in today's society. So let us take opposition at their best. They argue meritocracy, tokenism, ignorance of root causes and cause. I'm going to show you why all the arguments don't make sense and why we on team proposition win today's debate. So first, they argue cost, where they say we spend extravagantly on more legislation seats and all whatnot. We're going to show you how that is a minimal investment, but it gives us maximum returns. First, the cost they speak about is exaggerated. Panel, Nigeria's net budget is more than 20 trillion naira. Even if each legislative seat costs extra 200 to 300 million, contesting for 18 plus seats will only cost 0.03%, which means we're using less than 1% of the national budget. This shows us how the cost is negligible. But then secondly, what are the benefits we get from this small cost? First, according to the United Nations and World Bank, 8 out of 10 most developed countries in Nigeria have 30% of their representatives in legislature
legislature as women. They project that when women are allowed into seats, we see significant gains in economic growth, health outcomes, and social development. Panel, this is equivalent of the trillions of naira that will be saved if we break gender-based barriers and allow women to take the stage. Panel, opposition argue meritocracy and the principle of equality, where they tell us women are not so weak. We can allow them to compete on the same level playing ground as men. Why is that not true? Because first, in Nigerian status quo, there is no such thing as a level playing ground. That ideology in of itself is false. Women face cultural barriers, political discrimination, financial discrimination, political violence. Why does this cancel the argument of equality? I'll take that later. Because men in legislation don't face the same structural issues. Women are forced to contest in a rigged game. Panel, notice how this draws us back to my second speaker's argument of restorative justice, where these men have faced years of social injustice, and now we are proposing a change, but they are vehemently refusing that. Why is our side important? First, democracy needs women to be legitimate. You cannot call it democracy when half of the nation's population is being segregated. But then secondly, a national assembly that is 96% of men does not represent Nigeria. Laws about education, health, social women are made without the people that they affect the most, the women. Why is our side better? Because it is temporary and smart. First, these women merit the position, unlike what opposition has been telling you. They are elected into these seats. They contest among themselves from different political parties. Notice how their response cannot be that it leads unhealthy competition, because what we are doing on our side is increasing political participation of women. Because when these women see their fellows being elected into power, they feel motivated and inspired to lead. Panel, our side is important because these women in office are likely to gain institutional power when we give 30% to 40% of them of power. At the end of the day, if these people decide to argue tokenism, notice how, like my second speaker have showed you, tokenism is actually what exists in status quo. What is a token? A token is someone who holds no real power, right? A 4% female parliament is exactly what tokenism is, because these people hold no real power. What our side does, notice how power is guaranteed by numbers, not constituencies. Laws are made in parliament through majority votes, not minority counts. What we are doing is to give these women extra seats so that their voices can be heard. We are making sure their presence are too large to be ignored. Panel, they may say that these women will still be in minority and giving them additional seats changes nothing. We concede to that fact. But if we increase them from 4% to 30%, we give them an additional voice to call out their problems and fix the structural reforms that these guys are arguing on. Also, notice how these women will not be seen as tokens in the first place, because if this thing is temporary, they'll be more incentivized to lead by their mandate. Panel, at the end of the day, they'll be fixing amendments, they'll be fixing our system, they'll be making groundbreaking laws. Who will call those kind of women tokens? Nobody. Rather, they'll be seen as revolutionists because they are more legit on things like education, health, social welfare, because these things are personalized to them. They affect them the most. At worst, they may argue that women are inexperienced. But I want to ask this question to opposition. How would they gain experience if they are not allowed to gain access? How would they gain the experience if they do not know what it feels like to be empowered legislative seats, if they are not given the responsibility? For that argument falls flat in of itself. Let me have it.
Confidence, public speaking, sparking minds. So how would you
at this point, I think opposition should please be paying attention to my speech. They have said this thing countless times, and I have told you how it's not that women don't compete. They compete, but they are faced with structural barriers that sideline them. Men in office don't face these structural barriers, only women do, and this in office proves that the argument of a level playing ground is false. Moving on, they say we ignore the root sources like lack of access for women, political violence, and all whatnot. What we are telling the house is, how will a system that has ignored these problems for so long suddenly fix it? If we want to fix the root causes that this side is talking about, then what we need is insider effort of the parliament. Who are these insider efforts? The women that will push to ensure that these laws are enacted. But now, how do we change cultural barriers? By having women in power, shape education and media. How do we stop political violence? By having women that will push and enact laws against it. This is what we are fighting for. The bill attacks the root at the very source, not ignore it. Panel, without women in parliament, obviously laws of maternal health, efforts to educate women, to empower women, will be underfunded and deprioritized in a male-dominated legislature. Panel, why do we win this debate? Because even on the side of proposition, they do not solve the problems that bedevil these women. They kept on screaming, their reform is better, their reform is better. At best, what they may, even though they don't tell us what their reforms are, at best, their reforms may be things like supporting women financially in quotas and all those things. But these are reforms that have existed for 25 years and running. No impact made, no difference. We say no to that delay tactic. Panel, why are our arguments very important? Because first, we ensure true equality of gender. We give the level playing field that these people claim to have, even though they don't have it. But then secondly, we gain active political participation of women. Panel, if women begin to see their fellows being empowered, they'll begin to feel inspired, they'll begin to feel motivated. We slowly create a cultural shift from that ideology that women are meant to be politically excluded. We show the world why these women should be in power and the amount of gains we will get when they are voted into power. Panel, I have showed you how their key arguments do not materialize in today's debate and how we ultimately win, because we are better able to solve the problems that these women face in society. All the arguments fall flat from my rebuttal and we ultimately win today's debate. Thank you.
Thank you for those remarkable points. Now can we welcome our next speaker from opposition?
Standing on the already established protocol, I am Peter Ebenezer, the rebuttal. The third speaker from debate team Benue. All facts presented by my first speaker remains. Honorable judges, as you all know, my work here is to rebut, debunk, and contradict the baseless arguments that were brought up by such proposition during the course of this debate. Judges, after listening to the proposition, one question still runs through my mind. How will three speakers have spoken yet absolutely nothing is said? Their argument is held by optimism and guesswork, yet it crumbles under the contradiction of their own words. Their case is not weak. Weak is a compliment. Their case is vacant. Their case is just like an empty hall echoing with the voices of confident speakers. But allow me to clean up the intellectual debris that has been scattered around this hall. They were kept shouting and shouting. Women are underrepresented in this place. But hold on. In 2023, the INEC recorded that there were 3,875 candidates for the National Assembly, but only 380 were women. Now, how do you expect the ballot box to convert just 9.8% to 50% representation? Or is the ballot box a miracle worker? Of course not. The representation, the participation of women in politics was very low. So how do you expect 9.8% participation to turn into 50% representation? That's not reality. They were saying that they said that it does not stop that if the seats are adopted, structural barriers are solved. Wow. How are structural barriers solved? So are you trying to tell me that if more seats are added in the National Assembly, it will stop party godfatherisms? You know, if you add more, they are trying to tell us that if you add more seats in the National Assembly, it will decrease 50 million naira cost for nomination fee. That's a lie. But if you want women to contest and hold political power, you have to address the structural problems, of which I will show you how you will do it towards the end of my debate. They were speaking that women were never involved. I tell you that women are afraid of being involved, and that is what we, the opposition team, is trying to fix. Women are afraid. The UN said that 1 out of every 3 women in Nigeria leaves the politics, withdraws from politics because of violence. So if you add more seats in the National Assembly, will it reduce the violence that happens at the primaries? Of course not.
POS.
Yes, your POS.
Fine. The alternative has existed for over 25 years. Can you show any visible impact it has made?
Excuse me, you know that women are actually in the National Assembly currently. See, they say that structural barriers have to be overcome before women ascend to political power. But let's be honest, I've already said this before, creating seats in the National Assembly is the laziest possible solution. It does not reduce 50 million naira nomination fee. It does not stop godfatherism. It doesn't stop violence. It doesn't improve funding. In 2023, over 1,500 women contested around the world, around Nigeria for political power. Only 78 women won. Not because the seats in the National Assembly were not enough, but because there were some challenges that they had to face. They say that the adding of seats in the National Assembly solves economic issues. Which economic issue, to be precise? Nigeria is a country that is struggling with its economy, high inflation. You are adding 183 seats in general for one senator. My second speaker said that it for the collective number of senators, over 200 billion naira will be spent. So how will placing that strain on Nigerian citizens solve the economic issues? Of course it will not. They say that it will reduce inequality. This is a contradiction. According to the Nigerian Constitution 1999, in section 42 of chapter 1, it states that a citizen of Nigeria that belongs to a community, a religion, sex and other things like that. They say that, they say that whatever, according to, yes, that a citizen of Nigeria of a particular community, ethnic group, place of origin, sex, religion, or political opinion shall not, by reason only of being such a person, be accorded any privilege or advantage. This is violated because women are going to be accorded with more privileges than men. 2, be denied any benefits, service, or opportunity. Men are denied of their opportunities. And D, be treated in a discriminatory manner by any person, body, authority, and institution. How is inequality being solved? When two legislatures there, because there will be a part. Now note, the women will still contest for the seats that men also contest for. That's 1. 2, women will be awarded more seats. That's 2. 3, men will also contest for the seats that women contest for. That is a 2:1. Is that equality or inequality? My math teacher taught me that 2 is not equal to 1. They also spoke that the second supporting speaker said that we made alternatives. We have not yet made alternatives, so please wait till I finish. They said that better laws are made. Are you trying to say that the quantity of women in the National Assembly will equate better lawmaking? Let me tell you something. In the Rwanda that you spoke about, that 61% are women. They suffer from 17% of unemployment. Even food is suffering from insecurity by suffering by 20%. Are you telling me that this whole thing that you are calling now will solve laws that are being made? Of course not. Now, before I continue, let me clear the spider web. Please, proposition, don't paint it in a way that we are against women participating in politics. Of course not. Countries like Lithuania, Estonia, Liberia, and Namibia have women in politics. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Did they bring down the ceilings for women to break through? Of course not. Women stood on the same ground as men. They said that, come on, you tell us that we can do better than what men do. So why are you trying to raise the ceiling for us? That is what I and my team call wishful thinking, logical inconsistency, Disney fallacy, and reckless amateurism. Proposition claims that special seats make women to be role models in Nigeria. Wow. Nigeria has already produced role models like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, Amina Mohammed, Dora Akunyi, and Oroma Ote. None of them needed special seats to become role models. Besides, role models emerge, they are not assigned. For you to become an actual role model, you must prove that you can break the ceiling, not that the ceiling must be lowered for you. Now, panel, we the opposition has shown better alternatives like transparent party primaries, gender inclusive financing, and safe elections for women, enforcement of leaders pipeline. All this will solve the structural barriers. With this, I say let this motion fall. Mama, I fire before the whole time.
Thank you for that outstanding point, for those outstanding points. Now it is time for our slide speeches. In this aspect, we need 2 speakers from both sides. Everything has 4 minutes to make a reply speech. And in this session, there are no adding of more points. Just summarize what everyone has said, and that's it. So I welcome the reply speaker from opposition. 4 minutes.
Panel, I am back on stage. Summarize our arguments and take the first side of my team in today's debate. Panel, we all know this debate has been fierce, but beneath all the noise, one truth stands tall. The proposition brought emotion, we brought democracy. Today, 4 classes define this debate, and on everyone, the proposition simply did not stand out. Our first class, the meaning of empowerment. The proposition here kept insisting that women need seats, women need seats. We asked the harder, most honest question. Do women need special seats, or do women need a first system? The romanticized shortcuts, we expose them. Real empowerment here is affordable campaigns, reform primaries, and violence-free elections. Not once, panel, not once did the proposition answer how by tracking the problem solve the problem. They treated the symptom, they attacked the disease. Our second class, legitimacy and the constitution. They shouted equality, but forgot section 14 chapter 1, which says power must come from the people, not favors, not appointments, not constitutional charity. We asked them, how do you promote democracy by creating lawmakers Nigeria never elected? They never answered, because you cannot defend a policy that replaces elections with entitlements. Pardon my audience, we also won in this clash. The third clash, cost over expansion and good governance. We showed that these bills expand parliament, increase costs, and even create 2 classes of lawmakers, those chosen by voters and those chosen by genders. Their response, silence dressed as rhetoric. We told you numbers don't build nations, systems do. They gave you mathematics, we gave you governance. We also won this clash. Our last clash, perverse incentives and elite captures. Pardon my audience, this was the finishing blow. We proved this bill will not empower ordinary Nigerian women. It will empower the elite women already controlled by party godfathers. This bill becomes a reward system, not a reform system. A political waiting room for loyalists, an expansion pack from the same people who already dominate this system. They had no defense panel because you cannot define a bill that empowers the powerful and pretends it empowers the poor. Panel and my audience, my opponent debated optics, we debated outcomes. They debated sentiments, we debated structures. They debated sympathy and we debated systemic change. We proved here that numbers don't equal empowerment, seats don't equal legitimacy, expansion doesn't equal progress, and even shortcuts don't equal solutions. Not a single clash fell their way. Panel and my audience, this bill does not empower women. It excuses the system that oppresses them. It does not fix inequality. It widens inequality under extra seats. It does not strengthen democracy. It stretches democracy until it breaks. Panel and my audience, we team opposition showed the alternative for women to actively participate and not by special seats. We showed you alternatives like transparent party primaries, gender inclusive formation, safe election for women, enforcement of leader pipelines, strengthening local government participation for women, and also reform campaign finance and transparency. Panel of judges and my audience, before I leave this stage, let me ask in proposition this undeniable question. The Senator Natasha Akpoti, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, Dr. Ifedolapo Bolaji, Professor Mojisola Oyewole, did they pass through special seats to make it where they are today? Panel and my audience, it will be interest you to know that the first female governor of Nigeria, particularly from Anambra State, Mrs. Virginia Etiaba, she did not undergo any creation of new seats, but she made it to where she is today. Panel of judges, my audience. These and many more show how we've made the argument of side proposition baseless, standless, and waterloo in today's argument, showing why we side opposition should win and carry the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's pick up from
Panel. The fact that team opposition can be vulgar doesn't really mean that they are smart. It simply means that they have actively decided to ignore the problems that we are facing in Nigeria today. They shout about how Rwanda, a country that is led by women, has 17% unemployment. Will you compare that with Nigeria, a nation that has 60% unemployment? This is how they sound. Very, very not convincing. Panel. Team opposition has decided to play ignorant to all the points that and rebuttals that we have brought into today's table because they kept on sounding stagnant, and this simply shows that they were not listening in today's debate. We clearly said that these women are elected and not appointed. They clearly don't understand the motion at hand. Panel. Now, this is the team that really wins today's debate. The team that wins these three clashes I'm about to show you. First off, which side better protects the voice of the average woman? Panel, let's accept how this clash is actually relevant, because we see how women in power are actually brought into power so that the average woman in Onitsha, in Surulere, can actually feel like her voice is being heard because she's being represented in places where they are power. So now we see that on this class, team opposition has considered the fact that, women do face structural inequalities, right? Both sides have considered. But how do they solve these problems? They claim that we should fix the structural issues from the roots with the current system, with the current structures that has ignored the same problems ever since. That doesn't make any sense. However, we on team preparation have showed you how that is one, unlikely to happen, because your oppressor cannot magically miraculously turn into your savior. And secondly, and even if they change, they will not have the incentive to carry out these reforms faster because they do not have these reforms do not actively impact them. Panel, why do we win this clash? We win this clash because we show you how having a woman in the seat pushes a more proximate change against having superficial ideas as team opposition. We give policies that affect real world issues and the lives of the average woman. Second clash, which side better solves the problem of inequality of the legislature in Nigeria? What we get from team opposition is, once again, let us fix the structural issues from the roots. But panel, this cannot happen, as I've showed you how. And what we get on side proposition is that while we say that, okay, this might be good, right? Notice how their side is not really guaranteed. Because at the end of the day, they said, let us fix the primary election system. When these men get there, them contesting doesn't really mean that they will eventually be elected. So their side gives us a 50-50 gamble approach, but on our side, we see that we have a 100% guarantee because only women are contesting for these particular seats. So panel, support, this is why we win this clash. Moreover, team preparation shows you how this situation can no longer wait because it is dire. Panel, we show you how high rates of femicide, child marriage, these are repugnant necessities that outweigh any amount of cost that Nigeria has to spend in order to take action now. Notice how this in and of itself shows why we are justified on this debate today. Panel, the third clash, which side better preserves the principle of democracy? They cry how we are undemocratic because we support women and not men instead of giving them a level playing field. But we have showed you how in status quo already, Nigeria is undemocratic, so that doesn't change anything. And we show you how we give women the incentive to actually fulfill what real democracy looks like. Panel, I would like to tell you something. This bill we propose is not one that we just created in our head. It is one that has already been put in front of the House. It's not something we formed on our own. Panel, today's debate should not be judged by who can act drama better,
who can come here and shout and add a fizzing, but rather who actually solves the problem that we women are facing in our country, Nigeria, today. Thank you. With that, give the win to proposition.
All I can say is that was an intellectually stimulating debate from both sides, from and up. It gave us fire, it gave us critical thinking, it gave us intelligence, it gave us everything that we didn't expect. They literally entertained us and also made us learn new things. As for me, I didn't even know that there's a bill for, legislation, but now I'm better in life.
Hey Nigerians, are you ready to embark on an educational journey like no other? To expand your horizon, ignite your curiosity, and unleash your full potential beyond classroom? Welcome to Niger Educational TV.
Wait, what is this all about?
Niger Educational TV is not just a channel, it's an initiative brought to you by Bringing on Africa in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Education with a mission to provide inclusive and equitable quality education for all. Whether you're a student looking to enhance your learning or a parent concerned with what your word watch, Niger Educational TV got you covered.
Dive into our fascinating shows like live debate, quiz, documentaries, and lots more, all aligned with the UNESCO agenda.
So why wait? Tune in to Niger Educational TV today by subscribing to our YouTube channel and follow us on all our social media platforms to be entertained.
It's not a do or die affair, it's education. We are all winners. You have gone far. Out of 17 states, you are remaining. So please, whoever wins, that's why we have 2 trophies. So you must go home with a trophy. So whoever wins, please. All right. So. Please give us a
Okay. Thank you so very much. Before I announce my result, I want us to take this short chorus in honor of the Federal Ministry of Education. And it goes like this. Education. Take it after me. Education. Everybody shout education, education, shout education, education. A round of applause for the debaters. They did wonderfully well. You can agree with me that the debate was quite engaging. We have 3 adjudicators, Mrs. Kate Uwagu, an Assistant Deputy Director, Federal Ministry of Education in the Department of Secondary Education Division. A round of applause for her. A round of applause for her. Yes, we have Mr. Friday Beta and Mrs. Adebro Paulina. We had a split judgment. 2 adjudicators gave it to a team and 1 adjudicator gave it to the other team. That is, 2 adjudicators gave it to Team Benue, while the other adjudicator, 1 adjudicator gave it to Team Anambra. I want to say that we don't have any loser in today's debate, because when you look at the margin, it's just 2 point difference. We just have difference of 2 points because it was well debated. And we did our individual work. At the end of the day, we came out with this result. So a round of applause for our debaters again. Thank you.
So we
the winner.
Oh, you
didn't give them their mic.
Yeah, come on. So, DJ, so come up here. You go. Coaches, come now. Coaches. Coaches, come. Then hold on, yes. Clear this. Yep. Okay. Muna. So the coach. Who's the
It's fun. Anambra. Madam.
So,
Yes.
that's it.
So congratulations to Team Anambra for being the first runner-up in the debate. Your points were very strong. Congratulations.
So, Benue, our champion, Team Benue. So, starting with the coach.
Better if I'm down. Go down.
Go to highlight. Come on. Come on. No, go back. Okay, yes, come in like that. So you go back, step back, and the other person.
That's all.
So with the trophy, champion, 5 7.
Congratulations to the champions of the 2025 nation-wide competition of points were amazing, fantastic, but I do hope that we get to pass just to praise God for everybody. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you again next year. Thank you. No, give us your speech spoken word again.
Okay, so just 2 minutes. This one is for the winners of the 2025 Nationwide Intersectional